Overnight has been what's happened with Twitter account of various high-profile people, what's happened in the Bitcoin scam that we're talking about. Saket Modi is now joining us, who of course is an expert into this field. Saket, what do you make, of this news flow coming in? What does this essentially mean? With so much of increase as far as digital space is concerned in the last 3-4 months because of the lockdown, with such news coming in, what does it essentially mean for the sector?
Well, I think it sends a very, very strong signal, not only to one sector, which is technology, but to every sector, because now you have banks telling their technology companies, which also do financial services. The manufacturing companies saying that they are technology companies who also manufacture. And the reason I bring that up is because Twitter, if you see, is a Silicon Valley headquartered, new age technology company, which is built on the premise of, using technology to reach to its customers from the grounds up. It has the best engineers from the Stanfords and the MITs of the world. It has the best, infrastructure on the cloud that a company would actually dream of if it's lower on the Fortune 500 list. And even after all of that, you see, this is a very, very major breach. Company would actually dream of if it's lower on the Fortune 500 list. And even after all of that, you see, this is a very, very major breach when it comes to, the integrity of Twitter. Where it was compromised, and it was not one, but multiple of their employees were systematically attacked, successfully breached, and through their access that they had, where they could just go ahead and they could update the accounts of anybody and everybody on Twitter, we actually see so many of these verified, big, large profile accounts being breached. And it is a very serious matter. So I would say the bigger deal is not for technology sector as such, but for every sector, that when technology sectors, digitally native companies are being breached so badly, and by the way, nobody's been caught. It's been more than $100,000 of impact, which is more than ₹500 crore of impact within 3 hours that happened, cash impact on users who read those tweets out there. So it's not just the IT sector, but it's really a bigger message for the all other sectors, because if IT sector is not prepared, imagine what are the other sectors doing for sophisticated attacks like this.
Oh, absolutely, Saket. And to think of it, this hack could have actually been much bigger. I mean, this is just, of course, my assessment. You'd definitely be bigger to, state on that. But from what I read on it, you've got the likes of Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, the biggest of the biggest out there, whose accounts as well were compromised. Just imagine the massive scale at which this hack attack could have been carried out. And now, all the more, Saket, do you believe that, as we are in this entire work from home culture, we all the more have to resort to WhatsApp banking or online banking? So do you think this entire dependency on digital is also one of the reasons why it's become sort of a hacker's paradise?
I'm a geek and a nerd, and I actually, unfortunately, obviously see this with a lot of, as a nerd, with a lot of excitement, because just to slightly correct what you mentioned in the beginning, the accounts of Jeff Bezos or Mike Bloomberg and Bill Gates were not directly breached, but the users, the employees of Twitter who had an access to their account, their accounts were breached. And that's a bigger deal than just 5 accounts or 10 accounts being breached, because that means that any account on Twitter, so Twitter today has more than 1 billion accounts, any account on Twitter was potentially breachable, and we still don't know the extent of the breach, where it was just the tweets that would go out, or even the direct messages and the private messages of those users were compromised, and the hackers had access to that. Of course, that's an ongoing thing. But to the second part of your question around the reliance or the dependence of digital, I think that's the only way forward, right? And I think that's the reason why it's very, very important. And that's the reason why World Economic Forum actually recently came out with a survey that cybersecurity has become the number one man-made worry in the boardrooms and CEOs around the world, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. And what comes out in the media, I'm in the space of cybersecurity, we have hundreds of customers around the world. I can tell you it's less than 1% of what is known or reported cybercrime breaches which actually happen. There's far more happening out there, but very little really comes out to the media with what and how things are. So I would say we can expect a lot of such attacks in the near future, and not just on technology companies, but a lot of these digital banking platforms and a lot of these things. I'm by no means trying to do fear mongering here, but because these are my customers, I know how vulnerable a lot of them are, and considering our dependence on technology in both personal and professional lives, it is not the prettiest of the times when it comes to digital security today.
Right. Also, I just wanted to understand that, now any new platform which comes in or any major platform that comes in, of course, they do their own security checks and how essentially things happen. But do you think investment into security, investment into secrecy, upgradation time and again is something, which will increase going ahead? Say, I'm not talking about 1 year or so, but over the next 5-6 years, you think a significant portion of their revenues would actually go into investment of security and upgradation?
It has to, because anything that becomes the number one worry of the CEO and the board, naturally the investment there goes up. To support it with facts, I run a 200-member cybersecurity firm. We are 15 days into a new quarter. My last quarter was the best quarter we've had in the history of our company. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because this clearly shows the highlighted or the renewed focus on cybersecurity in the boardrooms, in the CEO's mind, irrespective of the industry you belong to, for a simple reason that the reliance on technology is now very high, and technology is no longer a back office automation tool. It is something that today you have to use to survive in this market, and when your reliance on that becomes so high, you need a very objective, quantified way of looking at cybersecurity, not just a red, yellow, green, not just a once-in-a-year report. So how can you go ahead and make it a very metric-driven conversation? And that's where cyber risk quantification comes into the picture. And I think that's a thing of the future, and it's here to stay now in the new normal, in the post-COVID era that is there.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for taking out time for us. Always good to get perspective from you. Of course, this is the big global headlines, whichever wires, whichever print, however you would open this, of course, would definitely be one of the big headlines all across the globe. On that note, we're taking a break, coming back quickly, leaving you with Nifty up about 30 odd points. Not much, it's just the IT sector that's buzzing in. Most of the other sectors are looking in weak. Mid-caps have suddenly started to see a very, very marginal pick.